talking about the organization, how, or raising money or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you were talking about how.
I think how we raise money, or,
Yeah.
well, so we. Oh wait, no, I think I was
Or how
talking
you,
about. I was in Des Moines.
Okay.
I think.
Yes. Or yeah. Or like you didn't have to apply for the position.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I
Something
didn't.
like
Yeah,
that.
I was. I was kind of recruited to do it.
But I was going to ask you, how many members are in the PEO? Has it grown?
We have close to 250,000 members.
Wow.
At this point. Now in the state of Massachusetts, we have just around 1,100 in the state of Massachusetts. So let me. Wish I could remember where I was, but so I think I was talking about how it's really just grassroots though. So we just raise money. Each local chapter raises money with little fundraisers however they want to do it. So some make things to sell, and some have like an activity or an auction or what. So it's not like any one chapter is doing these huge fundraiser events, but then it's the accumulation of all of those. And if you go on the website, I didn't think to bring with me one of our cards, but I could give it to Miss Lambert even. When you see the amount of money that's been given away, it's staggering, the amount of money that we have given away with scholarships. The scholarships range from anything. We have merit-based scholarships. One is called the STAR Scholarship, which is for a graduating high school senior. And we have another merit-based scholarship called the PEO Scholar Awards, which is for a woman who's working towards a PhD or an MD. And we have a need-based scholarship called the Project for Continuing Education, and that scholarship is it's more of a grant, I guess. It's for a woman who has had to have an interim in her education for some reason, raising a family, taking care of a parent, whatever. And she's going back to finish a degree. We have another one called the Educational Loan Fund, that a woman going back to complete her education or to further her education can get that, and it's a really low 3% rate loan fund. And we have another one called the International Peace Scholarship, which is for a woman who's from another country who's studying in the United States, but then plans to take what she is learning here back to her home country to help better. And usually, it'll be people who are working towards some sort of policy or education like that, and they're going to go back and better lives of women and families. So a lot of times, maybe it'll be somebody from a country in Africa that is going to go back and work on. I remember seeing a person give a presentation. She was getting some sort of policy degree, and she was going to go back and work on improving policy so that women in her country could own property. Because in her country, women were not allowed to own property at that point.
So basically, a huge part of the PEO is to raise money and fundraise to be able to give out these scholarships for women to enhance their education. That's awesome.
So it's really a twofold objective. The one is all of that, to promote and support women's education, and then the other one is just for the local chapter members because we're interested in always, educating ourselves and stuff like that. So every chapter has monthly meetings, and at those monthly meetings you'll have a program. Sometimes we'll bring in speakers, sometimes like my local chapter will pick a theme. So this year our theme has to do with recipes, but it'll be all, not necessarily food recipes. So somebody might have, what's a recipe for success, or, what's a recipe to paint a picture, or, whatever, different things like that, just to make it kind of fun.
Right.
So it's, promotion, just kind of for fellowship and stuff for the members too.
So my question for you is, how do you balance everything?
How do you balance it?
How do you balance teaching in the PEO?
You have to be very, very, very organized. So, see you, Pat.
Can I just get a pass for track?
Sure. you have to be extremely organized. So I have, I have a lot of lists, and I check off things with that, and I'm pretty efficient at organizing myself, and but it is, at various times of the year, it's more time consuming than others. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I try not to let things accumulate. So, if I have something I gotta get graded, I just get it graded. But I also am just really fortunate. I'm just a person who, I have a lot of energy, so
You love singing.
I like to be busy, and I've never really needed a lot of sleep. So I mean that being said, I get 6 hours sleep at night. It's not like I stay up all night, but if I'm really got a project I'm really on, I can go with less sleep than maybe more people need, because I'm really a right-brained person, so I'm always thinking of things and having ideas, and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's kind of part of it. And I find it really gratifying to get to work with people and meet new people. And so that's the thing at this president level, it's just been really cool, because I've gotten to work with women a lot really closely from across the state of Massachusetts that I never would have worked together with on a common project. And then being able to interact with women who are in the same position that I'm in from across the country and Canada, and in today's era of communication, it makes it way more easy. When you're kind of saying too, how do you balance it all? You have to make sure that you do have a balance for your life, so you don't I'm not on my phone all day long.
Right.
But when it's okay, now I'm going to open up my computer, I might be doing emails for an hour. But the fact that I have that capability, and to be able to do social networking and stuff, you can get so much work done electronically that maybe even 20 years ago would have to be done by the telephone. So a working woman like me would maybe not be able to do this job as president, because I wouldn't have the time to be able to make phone calls all day, whereas I can zip off a bunch of emails. And so in PEO, I do believe, and 20 years ago and beyond, most of the women in the leadership positions would not have been as likely to be working full-time as I am. And now, so in the state of Massachusetts, our state executive board right now has only one woman who's retired, and the other 4 are all working, and 2 of them are in their 30s with young families and things too. So because of the fact you can do so much with email and stuff like that, it makes it good.
Now, I know that the PEO is probably made up of a bunch of women, more women than men, obviously.
Yeah, there are no men.
No men,
It's just
okay.
men. It's just women.
But even in your scientific field and going to college and being in that field, did you ever notice that was it ever predominantly men? Has it grown to where there's women? Did you ever did you ever feel like you weren't qualified, or did you ever what was my exact question? Were there any barriers for you, or stereotypes or preconceptions?
Okay, right. So if I take a step away from PEO, which is all about empowering women, and
Exactly.
it's one of our taglines is helping women reach for the stars and stuff like that. But if I step into the science realm, when I went to college, I majored in pharmacy. I worked as a pharmacist for 13 years before I went into teaching. And so at that point in time, probably it was about 50% women, 50% men in pharmacy. Okay. And I would say that in some regards, there were probably some old school professors who were still a little bit prejudice against women, assuming that we wouldn't be able to think analytically and stuff like that. But when I graduated from high school in 1978, so probably if I was 10 years older, I would have hit that a lot more. By the late 70s, women had, especially in the medical field, had really, gotten a stronghold.
Okay.
If it was an analytic chemist in a lab, I would have been more outweighed by men than I would have in the health field.
Right.
Healthcare, there were a lot more women. But I mean, for the most part, I didn't ever really feel prejudice and having to, overcome hurdles. And both of my parents were educators. My dad was a chemist, but he taught at a university, and my mom was an at-home mom, but she had been an educator before, and when I went to college, she went back to work. And so I think because of the fact I grew up in a family that there were no barriers, so I was really lucky in that regard. I never had any influence that perhaps I couldn't do whatever I wanted. There certainly are some women of my generation who were in more traditional families, perhaps, that would have had that. So I think, I'm really fortunate, in that regard.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So on to leadership qualities. What is one characteristic that you think every leader should possess? So as the leader of the Massachusetts PEO, what do you think is like one of the most important qualities you have to have?
I think that you have to be able to delegate responsibility and let people know that you give them your trust that they're going to do a job. And that partly is probably why, I'm able to be organized, because I don't just try to do it all.
Right.
For example, this week we're getting ready for our big convention in a couple weeks, and there was a certain task that we needed local chapters to send us some information, and there were some chapters that hadn't done it, and rather than thinking, okay, oh my gosh, I have to find all this stuff, I just shot out an email to my executive board and, tagline, or, the subject line, help needed, and it's like, we need to get this information from these 8 chapters, can we divvy them up? And immediately, it's awesome, because I sent out that email yesterday morning, and by last night, the whole job was done.
Yeah.
Everybody just pitched in and did it. So I think if you're going to be an effective leader, you have to have faith and trust in the people that you are leading, and they have to recognize that you have that faith and you trust in them. And then as a leader, it's really exciting when they are successful.
That's very interesting. That's Barbara Sneed. I asked her the same question, and she said she basically said that the most important quality she's learned is to be able to listen to other people and not do it all by yourself.
Isn't that good? Yeah,
she and I,
we didn't collaborate in advance. No.
No, yeah, she said
that's good.
Very similar.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just get too stressed out.
Right.
And I think that you miss out on, a big part of being a leader that is so gratifying is when you see other people being successful and you think, oh, wow, they were able to do that because...
To follow in your footsteps.
Right. Or, because of the support that I was able to give them, and it's not even like whatever they did, it wasn't my idea or whatever. It was, because of them knowing that I had confidence in them or whatever, that they were able to really come up with something fantastic.
Right.
So it's cool.
So my last question is, if you were to give any advice to other women or girls in education, and just based on how far you've come and how much you've gotten involved in, what advice would you give them to follow their dreams or anything?
Let's see. That's a hard one. Because how do you know what your dream is? So I think, first of all, if it was somebody who was a young person, I would say just try all kind of different things, because you don't know what you're going to end up doing eventually. Is that, right. And I feel like a lot of times, in high school, there's so much stress, like I'm picking my college and this and that. And all of that stuff is important, but not very many people end up doing forever what they go to school for. And so, you know, I totally did a career change when I was 37 years old. So I was able to take I knew when I was in high school, I love science and I love chemistry. But I kind of thought I wanted to go into the healthcare field. I didn't think I really wanted to go into research. I didn't know. I didn't know for sure if I wanted to do that. And so when I visited Butler, where I went to school, I was meeting with the admissions counselor, and they said, "Oh, have you thought about pharmacy?" Because I was kind of like, you know, I think I might want to go into medicine, but I don't want to know if I want to do the pre-med route and all that. So I kind of fell into the pharmacy, and then I loved that. But then over time, pharmacy evolved, and what I really loved about pharmacy was interacting with my patients. And, you know, I always worked at a local mom and pop type of store, and people would come in and I would know them and, you know, look at my kid's rash, what do you think, this and that. And then as those really went away because of the way the insurance industry works, I kind of didn't feel as gratified working in a big chain type pharmacy. And at that point in time, I was doing a lot of volunteer work with my girls, with Girl Scouts and CCD and things like that. And I thought, wow, you know, I kind of like teaching. And I don't think if I had gone to be a teacher at age, you know, 20, I would have been as good at it. But by the time I did it, I think I was ready to evolve into that, you know, and everybody has a different path. And so I think that's a big thing right there, is to don't feel like you're locking yourself, you know, into one path. If you want to get into leadership positions, I think that was kind of part of your question, right? Advice to get into leadership positions. So, you know, I think that you start off small, because sometimes people get overwhelmed because they rise too fast. And there really is a big learning curve. I think some people are just naturally, you know, they just kind of know how to manage things, and people kind of look to them to be leaders. You know, if I was, you know, 25 and they had asked me to be the president of the state, I probably wouldn't have done nearly as good of a job as I could when I'm twice as old, because you know, you've got to gain that wisdom over time and things like that. So you start doing small things, and you get involved, and you kind of find what is your passion. You volunteer, and then over time, you know, maybe you are in charge of a committee, and then you see how that is, and you kind of learn how to delegate things, and then, you know, so you kind of work your way up like that.
Right.
I think sometimes, especially in volunteer organizations, people get put into large responsibility positions before they're ready. And then they get totally burned out because it's too stressful, and they, you know, they don't have quite the wisdom to be able to navigate through it yet. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's also, again, similar to what Barbara said.
Is it?
No, yeah, as you know, like, she started off doing like smaller corporations, and then she said as they continue to grow bigger into these huge businesses, like, she kind of wanted to focus on the smaller thing that she knew she could make a difference in and be a leader in.
Right.
And so that's when she kind of moved, like, after 9/11. She's probably told you after that happened, she knew she wanted to kind of stay home and start doing volunteer stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's how she got involved in the school committee. And
so involved, right?
Radio, and everything. So, but yeah, she definitely took a lot of time to, like, get a steady career first and do all that before she became like a leader of, like, the KTMA and everything.
Right. It takes time to learn it. Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's good. So